Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbaugh.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who I've known for a long time, and I finally get the chance to talk to him about his deep experience in the contact center industry. Art Coombs was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and raised in Silicon Valley. His family moved there so his father could obtain his PhD from Stanford, and from there, he got swept up in the high-tech entrepreneurial tsunami beginning to swell in the 70s and 80s. Art's parents mirrored Leave It to Beaver, and his father worked while his mother stayed at home. They ate breakfast and lunch as a family. He had 4 sisters and 1 brother, and it seemed they always had other foster kids in their home, and some asked to be adopted, so they became legal siblings. Growing up, Art was rather shy and a horrible student. He excelled at athletics and metal and woodshop. Luckily, he was raised by a father that focused on his self-esteem and not his grades, because Art was often labeled lazy or stupid because of his dyslexia. Once Art figured it out, he went from the bottom of his high school class to the top of his college class and graduated from San Jose State with many scholastic honors. Art started his first company right out of college, Video Data Systems. He raised capital from his father. As his father wrote the check, he said, "I'm investing because I'm your dad, not because you're a good investment." That led to some deep introspection and lessons learned. But it did send him on a path of entrepreneurship and creating organizations from the ground up. After several years, a relatively small firm asked him to move to Europe and set up their European operations. He was the first European employee, and with some talented people around him, they built the organization to over $100 million in annual revenue in less than 4 years. From there, he moved back to the USA and continued building and creating companies with culture. During the past 25 years, Art has worked in leadership positions with a number of global firms and their call center or BPO centers worldwide. Currently, he is the president and CEO of Coombs Corporation. Art has served for more than a dozen years developing and marketing tools that blend human intelligence and automation to improve call center phone interactions. Art is a widely published author of methodologies for BPO contact centers, outsourcing, technical support, and has served in leadership positions at Hewlett-Packard, VLSI Research, and Raster Ops. Art currently lives in Utah, along with horses, dogs, and just enough land to be comfortable, yet not enough land to need outside help. He calls it a ranchette. He's a single father of 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. 2 are out of the house, and 2 are still living at home. Art Coombs, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I'd love it. Let's do it.
All right. Now, I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given our Legion a little bit about you, but can you share what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Current passion, I work for a company called Coombs, and we're passionate about call center security, call center compliance, and call center process adherence.
Now, Art, you and I had the opportunity to talk before we actually started this interview, and the conversation went great. And I definitely want to pull it in so that listeners can hear. But one of the things that we talked about that really got us to talking more about Coombs and why it's so important is we talked about transformation and change and how it impacts the customer experience. And you gave a great understanding when you started talking about, okay, for tens of thousands of years we did this. If you could kind of talk through that, I think that would be a great setup for why passion is and
right.
what it is so important, why it's so important that is.
Right. Well, I truly believe in other people. I do lots of smarter people than me, but if you look at the world's history at a very macro scale, for millions and millions of years, we lived as hunters and gatherers. Then somebody got the bright idea that said, hey, let's plant some seeds in the ground. And so then for hundreds of thousands of years, we became a farming type environment, a farming world. And that's the way we thought of life. And then along came manufacturing. And all of a sudden, for centuries, we're a manufacturing kind of globe and society. Now, all of a sudden, in the late 80s, And certainly in the 90s, actually, you could go back to the 60s, 70s, we have technology emerging and technology coming onto the scene. But change is happening. This globe, we have seen change happen from millions and millions of years to hundreds of thousands of years to centuries to decades. And now we live in an environment where change is happening literally every 12 to 18 months.
You also shared that you had a really interesting conversation with a judge over in the Philippines just a short time ago. And I think it was really impactful to me to talk about when you start talking about, the evolution and
Absolutely.
the rapid change that occurred for them. Share that a little bit.
Absolutely. It's only been a few decades, but most third world countries, or even in Europe, most countries had their own telco company that managed all telcos. But when the cell phone came along, it totally disrupted and changed the entire game. So if you think about a third world country like the Philippines, back then, 60-70% of their entire population did not have a phone. There was no landline into these very rural areas. And yet when the cell phone came along, within a couple of years, everybody in their nation was able to be connected. The same thing, there's another massive change that is going to hit our globe here in the next couple of years, and that's the crypto coin. And banks are scared to death. Governments are scared to death. How do we control this massive change that's about to hit us? Because I can't control the internet. I can't, if Jim and I can trade money, real money, electronically, with no institution seeing that exchange took place, it's a scary thing because our governments live and breathe off taxes. And a lot of financial institutions are going to radically change the way they do business, and it's going to catch a lot of them off guard. Like Uber. I mean, just a train. It's changed how I travel. I used to use taxis all the time. I used to rent cars all the time. I don't do that anymore. Lyft and Uber have totally changed the game.
I think it was also interesting too, because you were mentioning how, with Coombs, that, you project that within just a really short period of time, that people won't even be using their credit cards in order to make purchases and do the exchanges. And you talked about the contact center, how fraud issues in the contact center exist. And you had said how the contact center is one of the most fraud-ridden places when it comes to the, use of credit cards and all that than any other part of a business. And
and we in the industry, it's hard for us because I realize I'm calling our baby ugly, and it's my industry, right? But we have to be candid and we have to be honest with ourselves. And it's not all evil people. These aren't evil people. These are people who are just trying to make a living and scratch out a living for their family. And they get, again, I call it the Jean Valjean theory. If you've ever watched Les Mis, Jean Valjean steals a loaf of bread to feed his sister's child. And so when that kind of Maslow's hierarchy is involved, people's ethics begin to blur and they begin to get fuzzy. And the problem we have in the call center industry is if I were to take your credit card, let's say I'm an agent, it doesn't matter where I am in the world, but if I take your credit card and I say, Jim, I need, in order to reserve this Marriott room or this Hilton room or this Days Inn room or wherever you stay, I need to grab your credit card. You're going to read it to me. You're exposing that credit card audibly to anyone you're around. And it's great if you're sitting in your office, but what if you're in the Atlanta airport trying to get a hotel for your next stay? And if I'm a good agent, I'm now listening to that credit card. You're exposing the credit card audibly to me. I'm writing it in a credit card field on my CRM, and I'm visually seeing it. If I'm a good agent, I'm going to say, Jim, let me read that back to you just to make sure I got that right. And now I'm reading your credit card where there's at least 5 or 6 other people around me that's exposed to the credit card. Not only that, if a company is not really technically savvy, it's in their call recording or their screen capture. So it's exposed that way. And what happens is agents will, I hate to say it, but agents will take that credit card and write it down after they leave the center. They don't have to write it down right there. They can write, as I'm going to lunch, I can memorize Jim's 8 digits. I don't have to remember all 16. I just remember 8 because the other 8 are all the same. And I remember the CVV code and I write it down. I don't think people are aware. On the open market right now, if you were to go to Manila or Bangalore or Mumbai or, San Jose, Costa Rica, anywhere on the planet, your credit card, a good credit card, is worth somewhere between $8 to $12 per credit card. And an agent can double or triple their salary very quickly. Now, what happens is you save up for a month or two and then sell that list of credit card numbers to organized crime. They sit on it for a month or two and collect other people's, and then they sell it. So this hotel that you booked in April, your card is not violated or hit until August, until you see 6 Xboxes that were purchased in Miami, Florida. And what do? You're going to talk to your spouse and go, hey, honey, are you buying all the kids Xboxes for Christmas, or, what's going on? And she's going to say, no. But you as a consumer have no clue how to connect that transaction with what happened 5 months earlier on a simple reservation. Now, I'm not trying to pick on the hotels. It happens everywhere. And let me also say this: 99% of all agents are ethical and don't do this. They all have scruples. But we all know that humans are vulnerable, mistake-making machines. We make mistakes, and there are agents that are not that ethical, and those lines blur, and we have this Jean Valjean theory, and they steal, and they rationalize it in other ways. But we're passionate at Columbia about changing that. There is technology out there that's easy to deploy and relatively cheap, where you can create an environment where the scenario would look like this. Jim, I got this hotel reservation for you. I need to collect your credit card. Are you using your smartphone right now? Yes, I am. Oh, well, let me push you an SMS message. And I'll push you an SMS message. Jim, I'm going to stay on the line. You can see that SMS message come through. Just push that button and your phone becomes a kiosk. And I'm still on the phone. I'm there helping you, walk you through it. But you're going to enter in your credit card and you're going to submit the yes, okay, bill my card. But it's all you. I can't see it and I can't hear it. I'll just know that it went through. And I'll be able to say, oh, great, Jim, we got it all covered and your card is cleared. Okay, what else can I do for you? Now, if you're not on an SMS phone, or if you're not on a smartphone, I can say, hey, Jim, why don't you just use the DTMF tones of your touchpad and just enter the credit card there. I won't be able to hear the DTMF tones, but I'll be able to see blank dots appear as they come on. So if you have a struggle, or if you, let's say you hit 2 numbers twice and you shouldn't have, or for whatever reason the card didn't go through, let's back up and I'll help you and you can enter it again. There's lots of ways to collect a credit card and a social security number without exposing it to the agent. Now, the cool thing about this is that it radically reduces PCI compliance because less technology is exposed. But if you grab, via the kiosk or via the DTMF or other vehicles, and you send it immediately to the payment gateway, that credit card information isn't ever in your telephony or IT infrastructure. You've eliminated, not reduced, eliminated PCI scope.
Well, I can see a huge impact for that when you start talking about even how it affects the entire, issues in regards to, the whole quality assurance process. There's just a huge ripple effect to all of that. Now, I would like to kind of give context too, because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because I've been in the, contact center space for a couple of decades, and you have as well. But, that background and experience kind of led you where you are today. So if you can kind of give me, where did you start? You said it was back in the late 90s, I think.
Well, how far back do I go? I was a pathetic high school student. I had dyslexia. And back in those days, we could identify dyslexia, but we didn't know what to do with dyslexia. Now we have lots of tools and we have lots of things we can do with kids with dyslexia to help them overcome that. Back in my day, it wasn't that way. I was labeled stupid or lazy. Now, luckily for me, I had a dad that I knew I was neither. And my dad was more focused on, he would say, Art, people aren't going to care how you spell creativity or how you spell implementation. They're going to want you to do it. And you have the skills and leadership to make those things happen. So don't get hung up on what the scholastic, this academic world labels you. Don't do that. You label you. Anyway, so I sort of got a hold of myself and I leveraged my strengths, and I went from the absolute bottom student in my high school class. I swear I didn't think my name would be called on graduation day. I jokingly tell my parents that my dad must have paid someone off, or my mom made dinner for a year, or something happened that I didn't know about that got me through. But I went from being the worst to actually being one of the best. I graduated top of my class in college and graduated with lots of honors. From there, I started a company and sort of fell into this entrepreneurial role. And from there, I got invited to go over to Europe to set up a support center because Europe was radically changing in the late 80s. Remember, in 89, Europe signs what they call the FEMBAC Treaty, which allowed U.S. companies to support and distribute goods very differently than they'd had in the past. And so I was over in Europe for about 8 years, setting up support companies for the U.S. support organizations for U.S. companies. Then I came back to the United States and joined a small little BPO company, and somebody on the board got crazy and said, let's make Art the CEO. And I said, what? But that sort of led one thing to another. And so I start companies focused on customer service problems that I faced as an operations manager, whether it's training or whether it's compliance or whether it's security. I dabble a little bit in artificial intelligence, but I focus on what I believe my expertise is. So
talking about that transformation piece, talking about the whole cryptocurrency piece, talking about just transformation as a whole, changing customer experiences, and we talked about how the evolutionary point of, what we have to do now, and that window is kind of like within 18 months. I mean, if we're doing what we did 2 years ago, we're in trouble.
Right.
If you start talking about that type of rapid transformation process and flipping it into projection, other than the whole, payment and fraud issue thing, what else do you think is going to be changing in the customer experience and contact centers that we just may not be visible?
I think I remember when I was raising money for a company called EchoPass, and I was sitting in a room with a bunch of VCs, and they were literally spending billions with a B, billions of dollars on artificial intelligence. And I remember one prominent VC, very well-known VC on Sand Hill Road, that basically said the call center industry, as far as the number of agents we have on this planet, which depending on the analyst you talk to was anywhere from 13 to 15 million. He said the number of agents we have on this planet will radically shrink because of the investment and the power of artificial intelligence and how they're going to apply it in the customer service industry. The reality is that didn't happen. The call center industry, as far as the number of seats, it's consistently grown. Until the last couple of years, it's actually stopped. We've now sort of plateaued. But I do believe, so how quickly the change has happened, this VC, I believe, was off base. What I believe is going to happen is that we will have more and more tools available to us as consumers online. I mean, you just take me, for example. I used to call my bank on a regular basis, to transfer this or to do that or to check this or to do that. Now I do everything online. Yeah, everything, even depositing a check. I take a picture of it with my phone and I just send it in and it's deposited. I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to go to the ATM. I don't have to do anything, right? So there's lots of things that companies are going to do to help us as consumers to let us help ourselves. However, let me say this. I am a big believer that when you have a problem, a real problem, people want to deal with people. They want that touch. They want that. There's security involved in me talking to someone and having someone say, Mr. Coombs, I have your special meal taken care of, and the wheelchair for your mother on this flight, I promise will be there. You see, there are certain things where I'm really comfortable using technology to solve my problems. If I'm calling to get the balance of my checking account, I can call, or if I'm calling to find out if my daughter's flight is going to land at the appropriate time. Literally, you can use automated systems, and I can get the exact same information that the tower has and that the pilot has. I know that if they're going to land 2 minutes late or 5 minutes early. So that means I now can regulate when I leave the house to go pick her up, right? But if I'm doing something where I'm booking a hotel and I need some special accommodations, or I want to really make sure this is nice. Let's say I'm taking my spouse to a Valentine's, romantic weekend, right? I'm going to want to talk to someone because I want that validation. So I'm a big believer that we are going to combine human intelligence, human intuition with technology to provide a really wowing, jaw-dropping experience for consumers. I believe that we have to bring more technology into the interactions that live agents have with live consumers to increase the consistency, right? So the very definition of being human is we make mistakes, right? It doesn't matter how hard you train. Humans are 2 sigma machines, which means that you cannot get me any more than 92%. It doesn't matter how hard you work with me and how well I read that script. My compliance scores are going to float around 92, 93, 94 at the best. And if you think it's over than that and you got humans doing it, you're lying to yourself. Something's wrong because humans can't do it. It just can't. I can't make 100% of my free throws. No human can do that. It doesn't matter how many hours Steph Curry shoots. It's not going to happen. And it doesn't matter how many times you read a disclosure, especially even a federally mandated, it's got to be 100% accurate. Human agents aren't going to get it. We have to combine technology to bring that quality and that consistency in. But I'm a firm believer in my lifetime and in my kids' lifetime. I don't believe artificial intelligence. Now, you could go to the people at NICE. They might debate this with me, and I'd love that debate. I don't believe artificial intelligence is going to be able to truly understand nuances in our language. We need intuition, and it's going to take a long time before human intelligence or artificial intelligence is going to get there. In fact, think about it. Think about the very name of that, artificial intelligence. Is that not an oxymoron?
It definitely is. Okay, so what we've been talking about, the human transformation, the organizational transformation, the country transformation, all these things, man, it's just riddled with a whole lot of emotion. And one of the things that we look at on the show in order to help us get them, pointed hopefully in the right direction are quotes. Is there a quote or two that you like that you can share?
I think one of my quotes I'm most passionate about now is, when the heart is convinced that the head has it right, you're motivated to move. Now, let me explain that. I'm passionate about one of the books I wrote is called Better Managers, or Don't Just Manage, Lead. Managers talk to the head. Managers say, hey, Jim, I want you in at 8. I need you to take this many calls. The average handle time of your calls should be 8 minutes. You go to lunch at this time. I need your CSAT scores to be so high. I need all these metrics. That's what a manager would say. And that's a good thing. I'm not dissing that in any way. It's important to for people to understand what's expected of them. That's a manager. And managers are focused on daily, weekly, or monthly, even quarterly goals. Managers talk to the head. They focus on the who, the where, the when, and the how. Leaders, you can always spot a leader in the organization. They're talking about the why. They're talking about what's our organization going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And so back to the quote, you'll never really get people in your organization to go the extra mile if all you do is manage. If all you do is manage, you're talking to the head and people are coming in at 8 and they're leaving at 5. But when you give them the why, when you convince the heart that the head has it right, now I'm connecting it and people are motivated to go the extra mile. They're motivated. I'll give you a real personal example here really fast. But this could relate to any call center, any customer service center. I was really struggling. I have a 14-year-old son. And I don't know about you, but homework is not his favorite thing. Every night I say, Kai, have you done your homework? Every night. And he says, yes, Dad, I have. Well, when the grades come out and he's got F's and D's, so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I go to his teachers and I say, hey, what's the deal? And they say, hey, he's a bright kid. He just doesn't do his homework. So I go home and I say, Kai, you've been lying to me. Wow, you took a couple of notches of trust. And, and so what do? I lock in and I start managing him. And I say, hey, I'm going to take away your iTouches. I'm going to take away the Xbox. I'm going to take away electronics. I'm going to lock you in your room. Here is your math homework. Here's the book you're supposed to read. Here's the report you're supposed to do. Don't come out until you got it done. And it gets a little better, but it's a constant battle. It's a constant fight. I'm managing. I'm talking to his head. I'm telling him where, how, who, and what he's going to do. At night, I'm like really struggling with this. And all of a sudden it hits me. I'm not leading my son. I'm managing my son. I'm not giving him the why. He has no clue why homework is so important. So what do? At 2:00 in the morning, I go down and I said, hey, Kai, wake up. Now, if you've ever woken up a 14-year-old boy at 2 a.m, it's a trip. And he's looking at me like, what the heck are you doing? And I said, please just get up. It'll take about 20 minutes. Put on your sweats and come with me. This will change your life. And we have a massive Walmart down in our area. It's open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, all the time. And I said, Kai, as we're driving down to Walmart, I said, Kai, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but I want to show you what your future looks like if you continue this behavior of not doing your homework and getting F's and D's in school. I said, you're going to see 35, 45, 55-year-old men and women who are pushing brooms and stocking shelves. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm betting you that if we talk to any one of them and we ask them, hey, when you were 14, what do you want to do when you grow up? Not one of them is going to say, push a broom in Walmart at 2 a.m. And I'm telling you, Jim, when we got to the store, we didn't say a thing. It was as if I called the Walmart manager and he had orchestrated this thing. It was amazing. And we're walking around and I'm quietly saying, Kai, listen, I love you no matter what. If this is what you want to do, if this is your vision for you in 20 years, then stock the shelf the best you can. Make it look perfect. Take pride in your work. I'll love you and I'll be proud of you. But my guess is this isn't what you envision for your life. And I said, the problem is, Kai, these people made decisions to not do their homework, that limited free agency, that limited and restricted options. So their only option is working a fast food restaurant or pushing a broom at Walmart now. My guess is that's not what you want to do. But if it is, I love you. So we walk out, we drive home, dead quiet. Halfway home, my son says, Dad, I get it. I absolutely get it. And it has radically changed how we approach homework. All I have to do is say, hey, Kai, have you done your homework? And he goes, Dad, I understand Walmart. And that's all he says is Walmart. But so a quote I'm passionate about, you have to engage the heart. Leaders have to engage the heart as well as the head. When the heart is convinced that the head has it right, you're motivated to change.
Art, I want to thank you very much. I mean, because I definitely connected with that, having a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old that I'm struggling with the whole homework thing. And I think there's going to be a 2 a.m. wake-up call coming soon. So now, so for those that are listen to the show very often, we know that, that the show follows a certain flow. And we talk about quotes, we get into hump stories, but I think Art covered it all on his own. So thank you, Art. I appreciate that. But what I would like to know is, you have Coombs. We talked about several of the other things going on, but if you were to put, and we talked about the homework change, but if you had one goal, what would it be?
I think on a grand scale, my mind, there's a myriad of directions my mind would go on that one. On a grand scale, I would love to help us create tools that enabled agents to provide a better, more positive customer experience for callers all over the planet. I'd love to create tools that provide callers security. I'd love to create tools that eliminate agent fraud or disclosure mumbling. And we all have been in call centers. Agents get so good at knowing what federally mandated disclosure to mumble through. Because if I say it clearly, I might lose the deal, or I might lose the pledge, or I might lose the lead, or I might lose the cross-sell or upsell, right? And I just want to create tools that create no ambiguity and yet still allow us to communicate as humans with humans in a very clear, honest, kind, gentle way where I can get my problem solved.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that improves the empathy and emotional intelligence skills in everyone. It provides a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement and provides integrated activities that will improve the leadership and collaboration skills in everyone. This award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and higher-performing employees that have great working relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Art, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us a robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Art Coombs, are you ready to hoe down?
Let's do it.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Procrastination.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Raise as much capital as you possibly can.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I live hard easy, not easy hard.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
I focus first on the person and empathy, and on P&L or profit and loss second.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? And it could be from any genre.
The most recent book, that's a tough one, but the most recent book I read that I really enjoy is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a
Okay, we're going to have to do that again. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my clean.
If you can suspend your pious sort of, abhorrence for that word. But it's an absolutely fantastic book.
Okay. Okay, Fast Leader Legion. You can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Art Coombs. Okay, Art, this is my last Hump Day Hold On question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25. And you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything back. You can only choose one. So what skill or knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I would take back this knowledge. I already mentioned it, but I would take back the knowledge of doing the hard things now is far, far better than procrastinating them or putting them off or sweeping them under the carpet. Living hard now and enjoying the consequences of easy later is far, far better than taking an easy road and dealing with hard consequences later.
Art, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. They're both at Arthur F. Coombs. I'm also on Facebook at author Arthur F. Coombs. And I also have a website. It's artcoombs.com.
Art Coombs, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.